All right, let's talk about the past continuous tense. Now, I want you to think of this as way more than just another grammar rule you have to memorize. It is a powerful storytelling tool. Seriously. It's how you paint the background, set the mood, and build that little bit of suspense right before the main event happens. So let's dive in and master it. Here's our game plan. First, we're going to really get the core idea, what this tense is all about. Then we'll look at the blueprint, how to build it perfectly every time. After that, we'll see it in action, compare it to a few other tenses so you can avoid common mix-ups, cover the must-know rules, and then, the best part, learn how to use it to make your stories really come alive. Okay, first things first. We have to lay the foundation. What is the past continuous, really? What's its main job in a sentence? Let's figure that out. Let me ask you a question. Just think about it for a second. What were you doing at 8 p.m. last night? Maybe your answer is something like, oh, I was watching a movie, or I was finishing up some work. See what just happened? You just used the past continuous. It's totally natural. It's how we talk about something that was already in progress at a very specific point in time. And that brings us to the official definition. The past continuous is all about an action that was ongoing, that was happening at a particular moment in the past. The key phrase here, the one I want you to remember, is in progress. We're not talking about an action that just started and finished. No, we're stretching it out. We're focusing on the fact that it was happening for a period of time. This visual explains it perfectly. That long bar, that's your background action. I was watching TV. It was ongoing. Then, you see that single point that cuts right into it? That's the short, sudden interruption. The phone rang. You can think of the past continuous as the background music of your story, and the simple past is that sudden loud sound effect that makes everyone jump. Okay, so we get the what and the why. Now let's get our hands dirty with the how. This is the blueprint, the actual nuts and bolts of putting together a perfect past continuous sentence. It's easier than you think. So the formula for a positive statement is super straightforward. You start with your subject, then you add the right helper verb. That's going to be was for singular subjects like I, he, she, or it, and were for plural subjects like you, we, and they. And you finish it off with your main verb, just tacking ing on the end. So she was reading. Simple as that. Now, what if you want to make it negative? It's just as easy. You just take the word not and you slut it right in after was or were. But honestly, in everyday conversations, we almost always squish them together into contractions. So, was not becomes wasn't, and were not becomes weren't. As in, the kids weren't sleeping. And to ask a question, you just do a little flip-flop. The helper verb, was or were, jumps to the very front, right before the subject. So a statement like, you were sleeping, becomes the question, were you sleeping? That simple little switch is all it takes. Of course, getting that ing spelling right is pretty crucial. For most verbs, hey, it's easy. Just add ing. But you gotta watch out for a few little traps. If a verb ends in a silent E, like make, you drop that E first. If it's a short verb with that vowel consonant pattern at the end, like run, you have to double the final consonant. And for those tricky verbs ending in IE, like lie, you swap that out for a Y before you add the ing. All right, we've got the blueprint. We know how to build the sentences. Now it's time to put on our hard hats and actually do some construction. Let's see how this tense really builds meaning and creates scenes in our day-to-day language. This is the big one. This is the classic, #1 use of the past continuous. You're setting a scene with a long, ongoing action, and then bam, something else happens, a shorter action that interrupts it. It creates this amazing dynamic where one action gives context to the other. This example is just perfect. The first part, I was singing, that's the scene. It's the long, ongoing background activity. And then, the interruption, the doorbell rang. It's a short, sharp event. By using the past continuous, you're not just listing two things that happened. You're connecting them. You're showing they happened in the same moment. This tense is also your go-to for painting a picture of a busy scene where lots of things are going on at once. I want you to think of it like a split screen in a movie. You're showing two or more parallel stories unfolding at the exact same time. See, here we have two ongoing actions, cooking and playing. They were both in progress, happening side by side. Neither one is interrupting the other. And notice that little connecting word in the middle, while? That is a huge clue. When you see while, it's almost always linking two simultaneous actions in the past continuous. Okay, now this is where things get really cool. This is where the past continuous stops being just grammar and becomes a real artistic tool for writers. It's not just about what's happening, it's about creating a feeling, a mood. It lets you immerse your reader right into the scene. Can't you just feel that? The birds were singing, the breeze was blowing. These aren't the main plot points. They're the background details, the little things that make the scene feel real and alive. You're creating a rich sensory experience for your reader, all thanks to the ongoing feel of the past continuous. You know, to really understand a tool, you have to know how it's different from the other tools in the toolbox. So let's put the past continuous side by side with a couple of its close relatives and see what really makes it special. Here's the best way to think about it. The past continuous sets the stage. They were playing. That's the scenery, the lighting, the whole atmosphere. The simple past, that's the main character who walks onto that stage and does something important. Their father arrived. One is the context, the other is the event that actually moves the story forward. Okay, this next one is a little more advanced, but it's super important. Both of these tenses talk about duration in the past, but the timing is slightly different. Look at the first sentence. My eyes were tired because I was working. This suggests the working was happening right up to the moment my eyes got tired. They are closely connected in time. But now look at the second one. Because I had been working. That's the past perfect continuous. That little had been creates distance. It pushes the action further back in time. It means I worked for a while, I stopped, and then later on, my eyes were tired. Like any grammar tool, this one comes with a little instruction manual. So let's look at the helpful signposts that tell you when to use it and the one major roadblock, the big do not enter sign that you absolutely need to avoid. When you see words like while, when, or as, your grammar spidey sense should start tingling. These are major clues. They often connect an ongoing action to another event. And, of course, specific time markers like at 8 p.m. or longer phrases like all day are also huge hints that an action was in progress. And now for the big roadblock, stative verbs. This is so important. The past continuous is for dynamic actions, things you can do, like running, talking, eating. Stative verbs describe states of being, things like knowing, believing, or liking. Think about it. You can't be in the middle of knowing something. It's like a light switch. You either know it or you don't. That's why saying I was knowing the answer just sounds wrong. The correct way is the simple past. I knew the answer. All right, we have covered so much. The theory, the structure, the rules. Now, let's bring it all home. Let's see how putting all this together doesn't just make your grammar better, it actually makes you a more powerful and engaging communicator. You're going to start seeing this tense everywhere, I promise. In a novel, it's setting that mysterious mood. In a simple conversation, it's giving a reason for something. Sorry I missed your call, I was driving. Even in a formal business report, it's setting the context. The company was losing money. That's the situation that existed when the new CEO arrived. It's an incredibly versatile tense. So, in the end, the past continuous is so much more than just was, were, and ing. It's a creative choice. It's the tool you grab when you want to build a world, create a little suspense, and give real context to your ideas. It's what turns a boring list of events into a living, breathing moment in time. So, with this new tool in your belt, what story is waiting for you to tell it?